Good morning, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Brendan Tolan. I'm the commander of the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion. Again, we are responsible for recruiting full-time for the Army Active Duty and part-time for the United States Army Reserves in the 5 counties that make up Philadelphia and the entire state of New Jersey. And again, this is our webinar series where we are, in recognition of what's happening around the country as it relates to COVID and to make up for some of the lack of face-to-face recruiting opportunities. We've been picking some various topics to talk about. We've talked about education opportunities. We've talked about the top 10 MOSs that are being highlighted during the Army National Hiring Day, which I'll talk about in a second. Today's webinar is about future soldiers, and we are talking directly to our future soldiers, and we're happy to have the Drill Sergeant of the Year, Sergeant First Class Rodriguez from Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He's going to discuss a little bit about what to expect at basic training as it relates to not only how we're going to train in the COVID environment, the safety measures being taken in place by the Training and Army Training and Doctrine Command, but just a little bit more about basic training and what to expect when you go there. So I want to talk about a few things up front. Future soldiers, we are so excited to have you on here. We're so proud of the decision that you have made to join either the United States Army Active Duty or the United States Army Reserves. For those of us who have been doing this, I've been 21 years in the Army. It's the best decision I ever made. And I know that, it's a little bit scary up front, because of the unknown and trying to go through the training that you may not, kind of have an idea or a feel for what that's going to be. But I am telling you that the minute you make that decision to go, it sets you on a path to success. And that success may travel the Army for a little while and then eventually lead to the civilian sector. But all those skills translate, the credentials translate. The benefits and the opportunities the Army gives you are immense, and anyone who follows the Army's path is going to be in a better place, a better success. And then, of course, there's just the feeling of service and being on a team of professionals, of people just like you, who are all committed to what the United States Army is about for our country and for the military. And so it's just a great feeling to have. I do want to put in a pitch to everyone who may be watching, whether they are a future soldier or not, that the Army is executing the first virtual Army National Hiring Day, 30 June to 2 July. The campaign actually has started already with promotions and getting the word out. But anyone who is interested in learning more can go to www.goarmy.com/hiring days. The Army has some increased benefits. We have benefits all year round that we would love to be able to tell interested applicants about. And then there's some increased benefits that are coming as part of the hiring campaign. And so future soldiers, for those of you who are listening and watching, please, if you have a friend out there who you think would be a good candidate to go through the process or at least learn more through our referral program, please do not hesitate to bring them in with you when you do your future soldier training or when you talk to your recruiter before shipping, and let us get an opportunity to talk to them, because we know that you have made a great decision to join the Army for you, your family, and everything. We just want the same opportunity to give them kind of the pitch so they can understand what the Army is all about as well. Okay, so we are going to be, we have the question and answer box there. You can click on the link and ask a question. We will get to them as we go through about the next 20 or 30 minutes on this webinar. We would love to hear your questions, because we know if there's a future soldier out there who has this question, someone else is thinking the same thing. And there is no question, for those of you who have never been to basic training and don't really know exactly what to expect, there is no stupid question. Everything is on the table, and we are here to help. If we don't answer your question during the webinar, someone will reach out to you with the answer with the email address you provided. So it is my distinct pleasure now and honor to introduce the Drill Sergeant of the Year for Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Sergeant First Class Ben-Hur Rodriguez was born in Sylmar, California, which is near North Hollywood, outside Los Angeles. He enlisted in the Army Reserves originally, and he attended basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri in 2008 as a military intelligence analyst. After returning home to California to do his reserve duty, he enlisted in the active duty in December of 2009 and completed his one-station unit training at Fort Benning, Georgia as an 11 Bravo, 11 X-ray infantry soldier. He has been stationed in Germany, San Antonio, Texas, Hawaii, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and currently is the Drill Sergeant of the Year at the Fire Center of Excellence, which is one of the 4 basic training sites at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He's also deployed to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Sergeant Rodriguez is married to his wife, Yvette. They have 3 children. And we are absolutely honored to have the Drill Sergeant of the Year from Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to talk about basic training and basic training inside the COVID environment. So, Sergeant Rodriguez, thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So the current situation, that things have changed recently. I believe, in my eyes, it's changed for the better. As you heard, I went through 2 different and through 2 different occasions, I went through basic training. First as a military intelligence analyst, and second as an infantryman. So I got to see how things are done in 2 different locations. And then as a drill sergeant, we got to see how it's done in Fort Jackson, and now I'm a drill sergeant here in Fort Sill. And I've gotten to see how a lot of things operate slightly different, but with the same goal in mind. Here in Fort Sill, the way we're getting after the mission now is when you guys arrive here, that generally you guys arrive here at night. We'll give you the bare minimum requirements as far as something for you to sleep in, and we'll put you straight to bed. You'll get an incoming brief from the drill sergeant that's on duty that night. That following day, you'll start with, again, ensuring that you have the minimum things that we need, and ensure that you get COVID tested. Of course, we got to make sure that everybody, before we move you out to a formation, that you come in here healthy, and to protect you and to protect all those others that came from around the nation. Once we've done that, we will send you to your battery, where you'll actually be part of you'll get to meet your drill sergeants, who's going to teach you, who's going to mentor you, who's going to mold you into that soldier. You'll go to your battery and spend there the initial 14 days. What we call it is controlled monitoring. It's a way to ensure that you remain COVID free. And that's because that's what CDC, the guidelines are, 14 days, to make sure that you're not, you don't inhibit any side effects of the virus itself. Once you've hit past those 14 days, it's deemed that you're ready to start the proper training. So you'll come right back to reception, where you get the entire inventory of everything you'll need to start the process of becoming a soldier. Now, just going back on those 14 days, you're not just sitting on your bunk and as a prisoner. We're gonna make sure that you understand how the Army works, which is where I'm saying I like where we're at, because you get a better understanding of all the programs the Army has. You get to understand exactly what is expected of you as far as Army values, equal opportunity, the SHARP program for the U.S. Army. You get a much better, bigger dive into how the Army works, therefore understanding better what you've what you've committed to. So like I said, you'll hit topics like those, as well as Army resiliency. You'll get to, and at the same time, you're getting to know those drill sergeants that, like I said, are going to mold you into that soldier that you're going to become. Once those 14 days are done, like I said, you return to reception, and you're going to get the entire inventory. You're going to get absolutely everything you need, and come right back to that same battery where you already know the drill sergeants, and you're going to kick off basic training. So now, instead of 10 weeks, it's 8 weeks of active training. And that is where you're going to start all the stuff that you would have normally done, all the rappel tower, all the rifle marksmanship, all the throwing the hand grenades, everything that you would have done, you're going to accomplish that in the 8 weeks. And now because we've taken all the classroom portions out of it, you've already knocked them out in those first 2 weeks. Now you get to all the action. There's a lot less of idling around, and you getting after everything that needs to get done. I feel it makes it a lot more exciting for soldiers, and they enjoy, from what I've seen, the process of it now, because you understand what the Army's about, and you commit yourself a little more because you have a better understanding. Sir?
Yep. So, Sergeant Rodriguez, that's it's a great rundown, right? So, when someone arrives to basic training, Um, the, my understanding is, having just come from Fort Sill, there's some barracks that have been identified as locations for the COVID, right? So everyone's going to go through to those areas, get tested so that you begin basic training fully knowing, kind of where your status is and what is the status of those around you. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes, when you arrive here, there are designated barracks where you will stay at for that one to two nights that when you initially arrive, ensuring that you're not having to come across other people that may or may not have yet been tested. So you're maintaining that separation between those that are good and those that have not been cleared yet.
What are the opportunities for new soldiers who are still in that 2-week quarantine? Is there an opportunity to talk to home and let them know that you've arrived, that you've been tested, that you are safe, to talk to your family?
Yes, there is. As when you arrive here and you're pushed out to your battery, that we still get after ensuring that you contact your family. You're going to write a letter home, just like you would have before, letting them know exactly what your address is, and you're also going to be allowed to call them. It's a very quick phone call, but you will call home, and you will also be given that opportunity the following week, just like as you normally would have, and the way we operated before. Yes.
Yeah. So, one of the things, with everything going on is, this feeling that you're going to go, and I want to make sure that my parents know that I'm okay. They're going to get that reassurance that you've been tested, that you know the results of that test, and that you're going to go through the 2-week quarantine. And then, then you're going to start training fully knowing where you are, as it relates to your health and the health of those around you, which I think is great. So, Ron, if I could just ask you a couple questions, and then we'll get into some of the questions from those listening. And remember, for everyone listening, please go to the question and answer and go ahead and ask anything about basic training. It doesn't have to be COVID related. It can be about basic training. It can be about privileges and when those things kind of come, what it looks like after graduation as you're waiting to go to AIT, really any topic. So you talked during the 14 weeks, and I think it is amazing what you're saying about kind of knocking out some of that training right up front that is classroom related. I know you mentioned a few of them. So how are those actually executed? Like, is it in the barracks? Is it done virtually? Like, how do they actually execute those classes?
So because you're still in that 14-day control monitoring portion, a lot of the classes are executed from within a whatever, because we still want to ensure you're not, we want to limit how much you have to other people. So if you arrive to your battery during those first 14 days, you maintain that platoon integrity. So that platoon that is assigned to that bay, they remain within that bay. And we teach the classes. You have your drill sergeant, whoever your drill sergeant is going to be for your platoon, that drill sergeant is going to teach you those classes inside your bay. And it's the same thing's going to happen for all the platoons inside their bays.
My guess is, Son Rodriguez, that this 2-week thing that everyone's going to do, everyone at Fort Sill is doing, my guess is that it's probably building stronger teams of the groups of recruits. Like they enter training, more closely linked with the people they're going to be with. Or is that what you guys are seeing as units kind of come together?
Right, absolutely. And that's why I was saying it's allowed for the soldiers and the drill sergeants to step back and understand where your drill sergeant is coming from, why your drill sergeant is teaching you these things. It gives you a better understanding, and you get to know your peers better, because you're not going into this straight into this strong environment where you're being told to run, go execute this mission and execute this mission. You're taking the crawl, walk, run method into a more expanded crawl phase, where we're ensuring that you completely understand everything that is about to come.
Okay, so here's my one question just about basic training, then we're going to get into, right now we have 11 questions. We'll see how we can get through them. Some might be duplicates, but we'll work our way through it. And again, we have about 15 minutes left. So what is the event that recruits at basic training do, which are routinely, they tell you is the most fun thing they did? Which event is usually like, wow, that was fun. That was legitimately fun. And the recruits talk about it the most.
So we get a lot. So we get kids from all over the world. We get trainees from all over the world. Some would say that Treadwell Tower. That's what we call here our confidence tower. You'll rappel from a pretty big wall, and it's gratifying. It's exciting, not just for the trainee, but it's also for the drill sergeants, because you'll have trainees that show up and say, I'm afraid of heights and all these things. But then they get up there and the drill sergeant is there, egging them on. Hey man, you can do this. The equipment works. You've seen your peers do it. You're going to do this. And sometimes it takes a little more encouragement, but they always get over the wall. They always get their feet over and down to the bottom safely. Others will say that combatives, because there's quite a few people that join that are into the MMA and all these things, and they enjoy the aspect of getting after these kinds of things. So we get a little bit of everything, but for the most part, it would be those that achieve their fear of heights. Those that overcome the fear of heights, we see that a lot.
Okay. All right. Here we go. We're going to go through these questions. Some of these are pretty interesting. These are good. These are good ones. Okay. First question. What weapons does a recruit shoot during basic training, and what are the distances that they shoot at?
So when you arrive basic training, you're going to shoot an M4. Okay. M4, and you're shooting anything between 25 meters out to 300 meters. You won't be shooting anything outside of 300 meters. And that's only when you're doing your qualification. You're going to start out at 25 meters, getting your weapon grouped and zeroed. And then you'll start to progress out. You're going to also get into a classroom environment, and you're going to shoot these rifles that are a lot, they're very, they look a lot like the real thing, but they shoot lasers, so that you start shooting in a simulated environment. So you also understand how to transition from targets to targets. It's a little bit of a process getting you from understanding what the weapon is, you understanding what what you should do, what the fundamentals are of marksmanship, and progressing into actually shooting the rifle, and then transitioning from target to target.
Okay, awesome. And then again, you'll throw a hand grenade. So that's, it's not, you don't shoot it necessarily, but it's another weapon that you'll get to utilize. Okay, the next question is, it's about close quarters combat stuff, or, so is grappling, could you just talk, I guess, so the question is about, is it grappling only, or is it anything goes? So you kind of mentioned the Army's combatives program. What are the rules as it relates to, executing combatives?
Okay, so before I dive too much into it, right now, because of COVID-19, there is a restriction for us to do combatives because of the close quarters that you do achieve while you're doing grappling. There is a restriction on how we get after that. But generally, as in combatives, which is part of a normal basic training cycle, you will be taught everything from standing up, from throwing punches, from throwing kicks, down to how to toss somebody to the ground. It involves a lot of the jiu-jitsu base, the jiu-jitsu, and moving into some of judo throws, and so on, and boxing as well. It takes a little bit of everything and creates something that makes a well-rounded fighter. Okay.
Which tests are graded and valid as far as physical fitness? So in other words, are the new recruits taking the ACFT only, ACFT and APFT? Which physical fitness tests are they taking?
So here we're taking the ACFT. We've been taking it now for just over a year, just about, because Fort Sill was one of the pilot locations for basic combat training to start implementing the ACFT. So here we take the ACFT. We have all the equipment required. Everybody takes it. Now the APFT, we've kind of phased that out here as we've moved forward with the Army.
Well, it's going to be interesting, because we're going to get back to units, and our newest privates, our newest soldiers are going to know the most about the ACFT, because that's the only test they've taken. So I think it's going to be interesting as we go forward. All right, next question. How does graduation work with COVID? Will there be a limit on the number of guests per soldier?
So that is dictated by whoever the commanding general is for your installation. For our installation currently, the guidance is that we cannot have any guests at this time. They hold town hall meetings every Tuesday where they'll talk about how things are changing and how they plan to change. As of right now, I believe the last guidance was that we won't be having guests because you got to think we're having people come from all around the country, and we're not able to have that 14-day quarantine, nor are we able to enforce everybody getting COVID tested. So that places everybody, to a vulnerable location, vulnerable instance. So we don't have them, but we do them virtually. It has been happening for the past 2 months now here at Fort Sill. We will have the battery commander will push out the welcome letters to all the family members for all the trainees, soldiers, and they will send those out to the families with the link of where you can see your soldier graduate.
Okay. And I know they're being videotaped, and I can tell you just from talking to my buddies in the Army, this is happening at all levels. It's not just basic training graduation. The Army War College just had a very limited graduation, mostly virtual. They just don't, only immediate family members who are already stationed, at that, Carlisle Barracks were allowed to go. So it kind of is what it is at this point. But so this next question, I don't know is necessary. First Sergeant Rod, Mr. Howard, we probably need to take this one down and make sure we get it, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. So when new soldiers arrive to basic training, those 2 weeks, their pay begins as soon as they arrive, correct? Like they fill out the paperwork and the pay starts right away?
Yeah, they were referring to those 2 weeks of quarantine. So I'm assuming, but we can double check. I don't know if you know that, Sergeant Rodriguez.
They do. Everything you will be paid for. Now you got to understand that generally most soldiers won't get paid until approximately 20 days until they arrive here, because the process that it takes submitting, you're talking about over 500 trainees arriving here in one day. So it takes some time for all that information to get to DFAS, but they do. You will start getting paid as soon as you arrive here.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I just want to go through. We talked about rifle. Can someone earn the rifleman's badge or the master badges for rifle marksmanship in basic training?
Of course. That is the goal. The goal is for you to qualify. Now you can qualify as a marksman or sharpshooter or an expert. That all depends on how much you invest into your rifle, your marksmanship. And the drill sergeants are here to assist. But yes, you will graduate with a badge because you're required to qualify. Okay.
As far as grooming standards, haircuts, those types of things, how is that occurring at Fort Sill for the basic trainees?
Right. So that's one of the major changes, something that we've had to adapt quite a bit, because you arrive here and we don't want to have you going to a civilian, because we have civilians that cut your hair here. We're not going to, again, keeping that separation from those that just arrived. You're going to go to your 14 days of quarantine with regardless what hair you show up. So we would ask if you don't come with anything too extravagant, but we cannot cut your hair until you pass that 14-day quarantine period, control monitoring period. Once that hits up and you went back to reception, you got all your stuff, that's when you'll also receive your medical screenings as well as your haircut. Yes.
Okay. So the next question is, would the process, and I believe we're just talking about the entire process of COVID, be the same if I do not ship out until October? So I'll answer that. Obviously, the 4 basic training sites, Fort Benning, Georgia, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and Fort Sill, Oklahoma, are constantly monitoring what's happening. And so the process, there's no way to promise that it's exactly the same or not exactly the same, because things are going to dictate, whatever is happening with COVID is going to dictate the rules. So it's just an ongoing assessment that those leaders are making as it relates to training. All right, the next question is about eye surgery. Would you be able to do that during AIT or after. I don't know for sure, but I think that that type of surgery is not until you complete your initial entry training at basic training in AIT. I don't think you'd be allowed to get the eye surgery until after that. Okay. The next question is, are we going to be training every day or just a few days a week? So how's the schedule work once they're out of the 2 weeks and into regular 8-week basic training?
Oh, it's a everyday thing. Now on Sunday is the one time that you're gonna have your right to do your go get after your cultural beliefs, but your religious beliefs. But the rest of the week, it's all training.
Okay. After basic training, are they still? Is there a plan to allow some people to return based on AIT dates, or does everyone remain in place due to COVID?
I'm sorry, sir. Say again.
After basic training, are graduates allowed to return home for a little bit in between AIT, or does everyone remain at the base or wherever their AIT is?
No, my understanding of it right now is that once you graduate basic training, our goal is to get you to the next duties, to the next goal, the next step of training. You got to understand that if you leave here back home and then you have to come right back to training wherever that is, you just put yourself out there in the general population, and you could have put yourself in a location where you could have got the virus or something in that manner. So we have to keep you clean and, in that aspect, and ensure that you can complete the training.
Okay, I'm just kind of scrolling through because we only have 2 more minutes here. So this one has come up about 3 or 4 times, not necessarily COVID related. What do you recommend? And I'm sure there's a packing list we've sent, but what do you recommend bringing and not bringing? Are there any items that you see routinely brought where you're like, God, you shouldn't have brought that? Or, wow, you didn't bring this. Now we got to go find it. What are those few items that you can think of?
I would say yes. They sometimes you guys will come with some extravagant bags, some bigger bags, some luggage stuff. Generally, everything that you will need will fit in a backpack. And I recommend that you come with just a backpack with the bare minimum for you as far as clothing. Now you're gonna get issued underwear. You're gonna buy your underwear and all these things. You're gonna get an advance, and you're gonna pay everything that you need. That's toiletries and that kind of stuff. Just ensure that you have a phone so that you can contact your family back at home. Bring any paperwork with your recruiter would generally tell you to bring along with you, and prescriptions as well. Ensure you bring your prescription because, like I said, you're not going to get to do a formal in-processing at reception and get your glasses started until after those 14 days. But for the most part, it's paperwork and your phone. And outside of that, anything else, it's taking it a little overboard.
Okay. All right. So the last question I'll just take, and then we'll just thank Sergeant Rodriguez for all he did here. Mr. Halloran, let's make sure that we get the questions copied down so that we can send them out as part of this. But are there any plans to alter ship dates with the uptick in COVID? So right now, everyone's ship date is their ship date. The Army is prepared to continue training. When the ship dates got changed in March, April, and May, that had a lot to do with the basic training sites preparing for this 2-week controlled monitoring and the adjustments to that. Once the Army was ready to go, we were ready to start shipping again. And so I don't foresee us having to alter ship dates again because we've already figured out how to do this. So whatever ship date those future soldiers have, you can plan on that being your ship date as you get ready to go to training. Okay. Sergeant Rodriguez, on behalf of the Mid-Atlantic Recruiting Battalion, we just want to thank you for everything you've given us today. It's a lot of good information. We also want to say congratulations on being named the Drill Sergeant of the Year. That is no small feat. And we wish you and the team at Fort Sill the best of luck. I know that you're going to do a great job training these future soldiers to become our actual soldiers and our teammates when we get out to the unit. So any final words?
Yes, sir. Thank you. First, thank you for having me. And second, I would say to the future soldiers that to just come here with the understanding that the drill sergeants are here to get you to push past those mental limits that you set for yourself, those physical limits that you think you have, that you think you can't run a mile or 2 miles. You're gonna overcome all these things, and that's what the drill sergeant is here for, to get you there.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks again to everyone for viewing. Mr. Howard, please get those questions down, and we'll get that out to the force. And everyone have a great day. Ip again here. Winning matters. Victory.